Welcome to the Pay-Per-Caller Show, brought to you by Ringba.
What's up, everybody? We are back with another episode of the Pay-Per-Caller Show. My name is Adam Young, and today I would like to talk to you about building a creative team and a workflow when you're media buying. If you've listened to some of my other podcasts or the Affiliate Marketing Show, you know that I'm a firm believer in creating 1,000 ads to really make a campaign work, which may seem crazy if you think about the amount of work that'll go into creating 1,000 unique ads, but the reality is that's what it takes to be successful, because the people who choose which ads are successful for you are not you, they're not your creative team, they're the consumer, they're the people actually seeing the ads. And so the only way to really understand what's going to move the needle for consumers is to approach them in various different ways to figure out which angle or which message resonates the best with them and gets you the best result, the lowest CPA and the highest return on ad spend. And over time, you can get better at this and find out ways to accelerate the process. But the reality is, even when you get really good at it, the more ads you test, the more variations you test, the more things you put in front of consumers, the more audiences you test, the more platforms you test, the different types of creatives, different music, different ad copy, the more you test, the better results you will get. And I learned this through putting in a lot of work myself. Back in the day, I used to run ads. I ran a lot of ads and a lot of affiliate campaigns, and I've spent over $100 million of my own money testing ads. And I did this across all different platforms, all different businesses, all different types of campaigns over a period of 10 plus years. In fact, I was one of the first advertisers on Facebook using their Flyers platform. I was one of the largest advertisers on MySpace for a period of time, if you remember that. I've run a lot of ads on YouTube. I've run a lot of contextual ads, a ton of search ads, you name it, I've tried it. Real world, not real world, on TV even. And what I've learned through that process is you really, really, really have to test if you want to find success. And then as you run ads and they produce, what happens is they start to wane and the return on investment isn't there anymore as consumers become banner blind. And so what you have to do then is redo the process, test more, come up with more ads, and continue to create and try to reach consumers in a way that they want to be reached, to offer the consumer what they want. And so the way to do this effectively is to build a creative team. Now, when I started in my parents' basement over 20 years ago, I did not have a creative team. I would literally stay up all night. I had a digital camera. I would take photos. I would modify photos. I would hire people on Craigslist to take photos. Back then, it was all photos. And then it moved to video. And I would try all sorts of video ads, and I would hire people to make video ads. And then for things like Google ads, it was all text. And so you have to get really creative with your ad copy and keyword insertion and targeting different geographies and creating tens of thousands of campaigns. And I did all of those things. And so over time, a few things stood out to me on why I became successful on different platforms. And so in this episode of the pod, I'm going to walk you through what it's like to create a media planning spreadsheet and just a media plan in general. Like, how do you build these teams? How do you find them? How do you create an ad creative factory? Because that's what we want. We want a warehouse line of creatives that you can constantly test and do a challenger champion on. And a challenger champion is real simple. You create some ad creatives, you test them, whatever one is doing the best, you keep running, you pause all the rest, and then you add new ones into the fold. And then when you find one that beats out the champion, you pause the champion, and the challenger is now the champion. And then you just repeat this process over and over and over again until you go crazy, effectively. And so before I get started on any campaign, and I'm actually doing this right now for my book, The Pay-Per-Call Revolution, that just came out. We're working on a book funnel and a whole bunch of advertising for it. I create a media planning spreadsheet. And that can be as complex or as simple as you want it to be. For me, I like to go quickly and then modify as I go. So I am going to spend a lot of time planning, but I'm going to try and get into the weeds as soon as possible and get testing as soon as possible. In fact, we added a media buyer to our team. His name's Zach. And me, Zach, and Chad got on a call this week, and it was Zach's first day. And I said, guys, I want landing pages, ads, funnel, all live for the book by Friday, which is today. And I'm filming, and they're likely scrambling to try and get the first ads live and the landing pages live and everything live so that we can get testing. And the first budget they'll roll out with is probably $100, and we'll probably lose all of it. But we wanted to get the ball rolling. So in my media planning spreadsheet, the first thing I'm going to do is I'm going to choose the platforms and the ad formats that I need to create, because I want to set some guidelines for the type of content I need to make and what format it's going to be in. For instance, for YouTube ads, it's going to be more long-form content that's in 4K, similar to how I'm filming this podcast now. I'm using a Sony FX3 camera with a pretty versatile lens, and I have some light kits in here. And what I'm going to do for YouTube is I'm going to have to do longer form, more engaging content that is almost like a TV advertisement. And we're also going to do Facebook and Instagram to start, and those are going to be more short form content and things that grab the user's attention and get them to go to a landing page, and on the landing page we'll test a VSL and a non-VSL. But what I'm going to do in my spreadsheet is I'm going to create a list of all the different formats of the different platforms I'm going to use. We have square and vertical and 4K and all the aspect ratios I need to meet. And so then I'm going to have that ready for the editors when we send it off for editing. And I have the luxury of sending it off for editing now, but I'm actually very good in Camtasia, Adobe Premiere, and Final Cut Pro because over the years, I've created my own advertisements. And anytime I go into a new platform, I like to create the ads myself first so that I understand what it feels like to do that. Back in the day when Harrison and I did our first TV ad, which bombed miserably, we ran it on the Game Show Network, and I literally went to the store, bought a Mac, bought Final Cut Pro, got a bunch of stock videos, mixed and matched an ad together, and just did all of the work myself because I wanted to understand what it was like to create and produce a TV advertisement so that should it be successful or should we want to continue on that route, that I can give directions to my editors and my producers and the people making the content that makes sense to them, and also gives them the direction they need to find success so that they don't have to learn from my mistakes. I can just avoid those mistakes. After I figure out the formats in my sheet, I'm going to come up with the number of videos I think I need to get started. Now, I'm not going to do all 1,000 at first. I'm going to come up with 20 hooks, 1, 2, maybe 3 stories, and then 5 to 10 different versions of my offer. And so for every ad that I'm going to do, I'm going to try and do a hook, a story, and an offer. And the reason for that is I want interchangeable content that the editors can mix and match to see what works. And that's one of the secrets to getting to 1,000 variations in testing is if I have 20 hooks and 3 stories, that already is 60 different advertisements to test. And so if you think about that, 1,000 really isn't that bad. And we're going to get through 1,000 pretty quickly. So I'm going to write down the number of videos for each platform that I want to do, and then I'm going to write down the hooks, the stories, and the offers for each platform. Now, there might be some overlap there. I may do the same hook that's on YouTube as I do on Facebook as I do on Instagram, but not all of them are going to be the same. They're going to be different. And I already know that in longer form content like YouTube, my hooks and the video I shoot for that is going to probably have to be very different than what I'm going to do on Facebook and certainly Google, because Google is text. And so I'm going to want to outline, a plan for the different hooks, stories, and offers for each one. And For the book offer I'm going to do 20 hooks, 3 stories, and 3 versions of the offer. The offer is essentially the same, and it's that I'm going to give you the book for free, just ask you to pay shipping, and then in that path, I'm going to offer different things like my new workbook that's coming out that teaches people how to build a pay-per-call business. Any business in marketing really, but they just follow the workbook, and it's like a step-by-step process for creating the business structures that you need to be successful. It's a framework for a marketing business. And then I'm also going to teach that in a course, which will be further upsell. And we have some stories written about some of our most successful customers that'll be upsold in there that can teach people what they need to do to be successful and how some of our best customers solved a lot of their problems. And so I'm going to, that's my offer, but I'm going to frame it in different ways and film it in different ways for each individual platform so that I can test. And so I'm going to lay all of that out in a spreadsheet so that I know what content I need to create, different scenes of where I'm going to create it. I may create the same 20 hooks in different places. I may do some in the mastermind house and some on a plane and some at an event or at a trade show in front of our booth or who knows what, right? Like I can repeat the same hooks, the same stories, and the same offers in different environments to see what vibes with the people who are actually seeing the advertisements. And that's how we get the volume up. And if you're doing pay-per-call, I understand that you may be outsourcing some of this to people or you may be not the person that's in the ad, but the reality is you can get real creative with this and come up with all sorts of different ways to grab consumers' attention. And once you get good at it, you can part it out and hire out people to do the different steps. So once I understand what my platforms are going to be, the formats are going to be, the hooks, stories, offers are going to be, I'm going to determine how many edits and how many length of video I want to go with. And so for YouTube, it's going to be a hook, but probably a 3 to 5 minute video that I'm going to need to record and do variations of. And then for Facebook or Instagram, it's going to be much, much shorter. We might be talking about a 3 to 5 second hook with a 15-second story and a 10-second offer. And the reason is the attention spans on Instagram and Facebook are much shorter. People are scrolling. We're trying to interrupt them and grab their attention. And generally speaking, you're not going to be able to hold it for as long. You want to get them excited, get them to click, and then the ones that click are willing to give you the longer attention, and that's why you do a video landing page or a VSL. And for YouTube, on the other hand, those people are already looking at long-form content. They're already like, hey, I'm going to sit down and watch this podcast for an hour. I'm going to watch this other thing for 20 minutes. And so if you can hook them, they're willing to watch a longer video right there. And if you have their attention and can start to sell them in the video, you want to. So each platform is going to have a different length. And you're going to want to have different lengths of hooks, stories, and offers. And then you're going to provide editing notes to your editors to combine different segments of these videos together to give you tons of variations of advertising for each platform. Then what I'm going to do in my spreadsheet is I'm going to open a new tab and I'm going to start to define the audiences I'm going to target. And I'm going to think about what are their demographics? How old are they? What are their backgrounds? What do they like to do? What in large numbers do they focus on? Is the age group that I'm talking to really into Billy Joel? Are they into TikTok videos? Like, what are they interested in? I'd like to understand what my audience is. Where do they hang out? Do they congregate in different communities? Do they associate themselves with different brands or teams or whatever it is? And I want to understand where the people I am targeting are aggregated together. Because if I can find them in large numbers, I can find creative ways to build audiences and target those folks. And ultimately, that's what I want to do. I want to find similar interests. I want to find what music they like, what TV shows they like, what they like to do on weekends, what their income level is, what their education level is. And if I can find similarities in my audience in certain interests like this, then I can go out on the internet and find places where they hang out and then figure out ways to create audiences of those people that I can target in advertising, whether it be on Facebook, Instagram, YouTube, so on and so forth, or maybe in the future I go out and do specific website deals, which we'll talk about in another episode. And so I also want to think about what nomenclature they use. For instance, different age groups, Gen Z versus millennials, use different words and phrases and tonalities. They have a different vibe to how they speak. And so you want to understand the specific nomenclature that all of the people in your demographic group use so that you can communicate that to them in language that they understand and they communicate with on a daily basis. And if you can change your communication style in your ads to meet your audience and not expect your audience to come meet your communication style, you're going to get much better interaction with your audience. And so I'm going to try and define that. In my spreadsheet, I'm going to create a grid of words and phrases that my audience use so that when I'm telling my actors or I'm writing my ads or creating my scripts, I can communicate to them the specific words and languages that they should be using in their advertisements so that I can reach the audience as effectively as possible. And then I'm going to go out and I'm going to define my talent. And so for me in my book ad, I am the talent a lot of the times. So, I don't have to figure that out. But if I'm creating an advertisement for something else and I want to reach specific audiences, I am going to want to define profiles of actors to meet specific audiences. For instance, age, gender, race, location, accent, these things are all super important. If you're making an advertisement that targets Georgia, the best way to do that is to find someone in the demographic profile of your audience in Georgia and hire someone that's in that audience to actually make the ad. Because if people hear someone that sounds like them, that has the same accent, that has the same voice tone, that uses the same words, that comes from the same place, they're more likely to listen and resonate with that advertisement. And so it's a lot of work to do this if you want to target different segments and areas, but that's how you get the best result. And we even have clients at Ringba that will create IVRs in our call flows generator with different voiceover actors so that if a call comes in, they're taking a look at the geographic location of the phone call and sending it to an IVR that uses a voice that is familiar to the people calling in, and they see higher interaction rates with their IVRs and less hangups. And so by just spending a little bit of extra money and hiring some voice talent that meets their audience, they're able to get a much higher return on investment from their advertising. And that's one of the secrets that a lot of our clients use that are really good at tying their audience demographics to their advertising. Now, once I've defined that, I have to go find my talent, right? So, Adam, where do you find talent? You want to create 1,000 advertisements. You want to find some guy that lives in Georgia that sounds like a Georgian and meets your audience. How do you do that? Well, that takes a bunch of work. And if you have a team of people, they can help you with this. You can hire a virtual assistant to do it, or you can just hustle it out yourself. But in reality, the only way to do it is to seek these folks out. So I'm going to go to Upwork, I'm going to go to Fiverr, and I'm going to go to Craigslist. And I am going to search Fiverr for the people I'm looking for and try and hire some of them. I'm going to post on Upwork for video editors and talent that can do what I need. Granted, on Upwork, you're probably not going to find a lot of video acting talent, but you will find your editors for your videos. And pro tip, I like to hire multiple people to do the same job. So if I have someone doing edits for me, I am going to hire 3 to 5 people and give them the exact same task, the exact same edits, the exact same everything. And then I'm going to have them all do the work, and I'm going to see who does a great job, who asks great questions, who communicates well, who delivers on time, who follows instructions, and I'm going to try and find my team that I'm going to use repeatedly. And if you find multiple great people and they deliver different kinds of advertisements and edits for the same film files, you can test them differently, and that's also how you get more variates in your testing, is you just hire more people that do some motion graphics or cutting or transitions differently, and then you'll have different ads that vibe with different consumers. And so my goal is going to be to make a collection of vendors that are doing things for me on the editing side. And then on the talent side, this is a little trickier, but what I like to do is I like to use paid job ads on Craigslist, and I've been doing this for decades. And so what I will do is I will do paid job ads on Craigslist in different cities for the talent I'm looking for. And if you do not have a website and you do not have a brand and you do not present yourself well, people will probably not trust that you're going to pay them. And the most important thing when doing this is being crystal clear and communicating well with people. It's to say, hey, listen, I need someone to film this on their iPhone. I'm going to give you a script. You film it in your kitchen. Here are 3 examples of what I need, and I will pay you $100 per raw video, or whatever, $50 per raw video to do this. And I am going to trust people in some cases. If I can't get them to work with me, I might pay them a little bit up front and then some on delivery. I'm going to have a simple 1-page agreement that I send to everyone, because if you have an agreement, people are more likely to take you seriously, and you want to have a creative release. So you need like a simple creative release agreement that also says, I'm going to pay you for doing these specific things, making these 5 videos, $50 per video or whatever it is, and then you give me a global, unlimited, exclusive use of the video to do in whatever I want, to use in ads, whatever, right? And they sign it, you sign it. And then that way, the people will go, oh, this person has a creative release, they're signing an agreement with me, they're probably going to pay. And then if someone does a really bad job, but they do what you've asked them to do, they're just not good, pay them. Because the reality is, if you don't, they may post that you didn't pay, or they may try and leave your company a review somewhere. Like, look, if you're going to hire 10 people to do creative work for you, some of them are not going to do a great job, but you still need to pay them. And you keep the ones that do a great job. And so understand that going in. And that's why you can't just hire one actor to do something, or one person to do a voiceover, one person to do editing. You're going to have to pay some people that don't do great work, because you're looking for great work. And so that takes time and testing, just like testing advertisements. And then when you find the people who do a great job, you just keep hiring them. You build a relationship with them. You give them more work, and then they will start to try and want to do a better job for you every single time. Now, again, I'm not a lawyer, and you should get your own legal advice, but you can simply Google standard creative release template, and it will probably be fine for you to get started. You just want something in place. If you're more concerned about creative releases, I always recommend to have legal counsel, but if that's not in the budget, you just want to do your best until it is in the budget, and then once you have the budget, hire some great legal counsel to help you with these things. It's really not that expensive, and I always find that the money I invest with attorneys in creating something like a really great content ownership form or something of that nature pays dividends down the line. Now, once I have all these things in place, I'm going to organize a content library. I'm going to use Google Drive or something similar. I'm going to organize it by talent and date and hook and theme. And I am going to do it in a really organized way from the get-go, from the beginning, so that over time, as I get more and more and more creative assets, they're all organized into a library. So if my team or I have an idea like, oh yeah, I want to use that hook that we made that the guy in Georgia did 6 months ago, and I want to tie it into this new offer that we got, and I have this great idea, the last thing I want to do is have to spend an hour going and finding the content so that I can use it in ads later. Also, as I have a team of people, I can share the library with them, and my editors can go in and out and find what they need to make the creatives that they want, and it reduces the time exponentially as more and more and more goes into the library. And I have worked I unfortunately have worked in content libraries that are essentially just giant dumps of creative that are just named like the file names that a camera will put out. And that's an absolute nightmare. I have spent hours trying to find files for what I want to have done, and those hours could have easily been spent organizing it so that I didn't have to do it later. Now, I wasn't in charge of organizing the content library. I actually tasked it to be organized, but unfortunately for me, they did not do it. And so I ended up spending many hours finding what I needed, and a lot of the times I couldn't find what I needed, and so I had to have it reshot, and it really slowed me down. And time is your most valuable asset, and so you want to set things up correctly from the beginning, because I promise you it will pay dividends in the future. And so now I've got all my content organized by talent in my drive with all a standardized naming convention. I have my media plans. I have my hooks, my stories, my offers, my music, my voiceover. Ringba's configured. I have my ad accounts. I got everything going. I'm going to start organizing all the tasks into something like a Trello or whatever task platform you use, and I'm going to try to find one that has a checklist function. I believe strongly in checklists. We use them at Ringba for all sorts of things. That's how NASA got a man on the moon. They used a checklist for everything. Because the reality is, the only thing you can guarantee when working with humans is they will make mistakes, and that's okay. I make them all the time. And that's why I like checklists, because if I have a thorough checklist of everything I need to do, then I can hand that checklist to a contractor or someone on my team. They can follow the checklist, and then they won't make mistakes for the things we've outlined in the checklist. And so organize your media buying into checklists. Organize your content creation, your editing into checklists, so that you can give these tasks in a really organized fashion to somebody, and they can check it off as they're doing it. And then they're less likely to make mistakes, and you're more likely to get what you want delivered on time, exactly the way you want it. And then when you're done, you're going to review all of the people that you work with. You're going to see who delivered on time, who organized everything the way you want. If they didn't, you're going to go clean that up. You're going to see who followed instructions, who asked really great questions to add value so that you can actually create something great. And a good example of this is I had a videographer over here at the Ringba Mastermind House over the weekend. His name's Chance, and he was really awesome. And we sat down, and we didn't spend any time talking about like how much money we're going to spend and what the deal's going to be. We just spent the entire time riffing about what cool creatives we needed to make and like what angles and treatments we could make to produce really good content. And he had some amazing ideas, and I walked him through what I wanted to accomplish, and he was like, listen, I'm not worried about whatever deal we're going to make. Let's just marinate on this for a few days and then come back and revisit what we can do together. And that is what I like to call adding value. He wasn't interested in just like making some money or I'll give you, what he can make per video. He was interested in how we make something great and just trusted that we would come up with a deal that works. And we will. I'm super excited about working with him because I want people who are adding value, who are giving me ideas, playing off my ideas, and creating things that I didn't think about, and then people who are also coachable. And that's when you get those two pieces together, especially with creatives, with people who are going to make videos for you, acting talent, editing people, they're going to go above and beyond and create something that you didn't foresee that's really cool. And when you get stuff that's really cool, it doesn't guarantee that it's going to work, but it does usually have a higher chance of succeeding in advertising. And so that's a really exciting combination, and that's going to create ads that will surprise you. And that's what I'm trying to create whenever I'm doing advertising, because if I can find one that wins in the first 50 ads versus the first 500, that saves me a ton of money when we create our ads, upload them, and actually start spending money. And so that's, in a nutshell, how I think about building a creative team and a workflow. And I'm going to try and do this over and over again, and I'm going to test with my teams and how I organize things and how I run my processes as well until I get one that's dialed in and starts getting me the results that I want. But if you can think about it in a similar way and sort of follow this framework, I guarantee you that you can build a warehouse line that'll make your life easier once it's all set up, and then you can go focus on things that are more important. So, thank you for listening and following. And if you would, please like, follow, and subscribe on all my social media channels. You can follow me Instagram at Adam Young, TikTok as well, or YouTube/Adam Young. And if you'd like a copy of my book, The Pay-Per-Call Revolution, where I teach all sorts of similar things like I did in this episode, how to be successful in pay-per-call and digital marketing in general, just click the link below or go to paypercallrevolution.com. I will send you a copy of this book absolutely free. All I ask is that you pay shipping and handling. So again, please go to paypercallrevolution.com or click the link below. Get my book. I would love to hear what you think about it. And if you'd like me to talk about anything specific on this pod, comment or shoot me a note, and I'm more than happy to answer any questions or tailor this content around what our listeners are looking for. Thank you so much, and I'll see you next time.